Okay. All right. So coming onto our mats, let's start in child's pose today. So coming to hands and knees first, then big toes together, sit the hips back, arms out in front of you, and you'll just start to rest the forehead down on the mat. And you know the hips can be as high as you need them to be if the knees are talking to you. You want to keep them quiet. And if you have any upper body stuff that's happening, maybe it's a little too much to have the arms out in front of you. Don't feel like they have to be all the way extended. And you can even have one arm back if it's just one side. And eyes are partially open. Unless you're comfortable keeping them closed, that's fine too. Just what's nice about child's pose, it's hard to have them all the way open because then you're looking straight forward at the mat. It's just uncomfortable. Start to take a deeper breath in through the nose, back out through the nose. 2 more like that. Deep breath in, fill all the way up. Slow breath out. Last one like that together. Deep breath in. And as slow as you can, exhale back out through the nose. Keep going on your own. Finding where your breath rhythm is today. Maybe you start to crawl the fingertips farther forward. If they're not already, lift the forearms away from the mat, the elbows away from the mat. Keep pulling the hips back if the knees are okay with it. Press down into all 10 fingertips. So the hands are spread. You're pressing into the whole hand. And that's helping you squeeze those outer upper arms in and widen across the shoulder blades at the same time. Shoulders are going back toward the hips so the neck has plenty of space. And shift forward onto hands and knees. You can walk the hands in so that they're underneath the shoulders, coming into tabletop, all fours. On an inhale, come forward with the heart, lifting the tail. And on the exhale, rounding the spine. Cat, cow. Go at your own pace. Stay with your own breath. Taking a moment to check in with yourself. How are you truly feeling right now in this moment? And how can your practice bring a little bit more balance to whatever you're feeling? Trying to make choices that'll get you there. One more, forward and back. So come back to tabletop neutral spine. Let's reach the right arm up, opening up the right side chest and shoulder. You might feel a little resistance there. Check that out. And then you'll thread this right arm through underneath you, coming down onto the right side of the face. So starting to get into the shoulders, hips stay over the knees, belly hugs in a little bit. Left hand can stay right in front of the face. If you're comfortable here, you could start to reach that left arm forward over the top of the mat. So making an L shape with the arms. You can just check that out, see how it feels on the shoulders. If this is enough, stay here. If you want a little bit more, the left arm could reach up. You'll turn the palm to face behind you and you wrap the left arm behind the back, but you're just starting out opening up this left shoulder. So don't go for the deepest hook of the hand. Just see where you get a nice opening in that left side shoulder and chest area. If that left arm's behind the back, reach it back up toward the sky. We'll all bring the left hand down in front of the face if it's not already there. Press into the left hand. Reach the right arm back up again. See how it feels. Right hand comes down to the mat. This time, left arm reaches up. Thread the left arm through underneath you. Come down onto the left side of the head. Right hand in front of the face to start. Hug the core in a little bit. And then start to stretch that right arm forward over the top of the mat. If you're comfortable with that, you can always stay with the right hand in front of the face. Couple of breaths here, checking this side out, seeing if there's anything different, adjusting if there is. Maybe the right arm reaches up. If that happens and it's okay, turn the right palm to face behind you. Wrap the right arm behind the back gently, especially if you're coming into this cold. So if you haven't done any shoulder opening yet in your day, then make this one gentle to start. You can always go deeper later. Right arm reaches all the way back up. Right hand comes back down in front of the face, wherever you are. Press into the right hand. Reach the left arm all the way back up. And the left hand comes down to the mat. From here, walk the hands forward toward the top of the mat and then shift forward, keeping the knees down. You're just trying to stack the shoulders over the wrists. Hug the belly in and reach the heart forward so the spine gets really long and there isn't any rounding in the upper back. Keep the knees down on the mat. Just bend the elbows halfway, shoulders away from the ears. Come back up to the top on the inhale. Exhale, come down halfway, elbows hug in, point straight back. Inhale, back up. Last one. Lower down half on the exhale, and then all the way down onto the mat. Tops of the feet are down. Let's bring the hands out wide. So off of the mat, coming up onto the fingertips, lining up the elbows with the shoulders and wrists underneath the elbows. So as you press into the tops of the feet, inhale up for a wide cobra. So you'll be able to come up a little bit higher, but don't push it too much. Exhale, come back down. 2 more like that. Inhale up. Exhale, release. Inhale up. Exhale, release. This time, hands to the mat, come back up to hands and knees, stacking the shoulders over the wrists. Tuck the toes underneath you and just hover the knees away from the mat. And then lift the hips up and back, downward facing dog. So you can pedal out the feet here or any movement that feels good in your body. Most of us like movement in the first downward facing dog. If you don't feel obligated to move around. Stillness is fine too, but maybe you put a little bend in the knees if that gives you more length in the back. Then from downward facing dog, let's step the right foot forward outside of the right hand. So a wide lunge, right foot forward, reach the heart forward. Let's bring the back knee down for this one, keeping the spine long. So hands underneath the shoulders. Starting to get into this right hip, right toes pointing forward if you can. Sometimes they want to open up to the right, which is okay. It's just a different part of the hip. Then back toes tuck, lift the back knee, step back, downward facing dog. Other side, looking forward, left foot steps up outside of the left hand. Wide lunge, reach the heart forward, set that back knee down. And the back toes can be tucked or untucked, whichever one's more comfortable for you. Looking forward keeps the chest reaching forward. Then tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale forward to plank pose. Hold plank pose. Feet are hip width distance apart. You're reaching the heart forward. Gaze goes down and then just move the eyes forward, not the head. Try to squeeze that navel in toward the spine and then lift it forward toward the navel at the same time. Tops of the thighs lift up. Inner thighs are engaged. So if you had a block between the thighs, it's like you're trying to spin it up toward the sky. Breath is still with that breath rhythm that we started with. Then set the knees down to the mat. Child's pose, big toes together, sit the hips back, forehead comes down. Shift forward onto hands and knees, leave the hands where they are, stack the shoulders over the wrists, tuck the toes, lift the knees, back to plank pose. And you can always come to fists if your wrists are bothering you. Also, you want to press down in the hands and lift up with the forearms at the same time so you don't dump down into the wrists too much. And then from here, lower all the way down to the mat slowly. So lying back down onto your stomach, tops of the feet to the mat. This time, reach the arms back behind you, palms face one another. As you press into the tops of the feet, lift and spread the chest. Back of the neck stays long. You could hover the feet just an inch or two away from the mat. So it's not really about height. You just want to keep pulling those feet back. Firing up the whole backside of the body. Then set the tops of the feet down. If you lifted them, hands by the lower ribs, come up to hands and knees, tuck the toes, lift the hips, downward facing dog. So as you hug the belly in, you're also lifting the tailbone up. Heels are going down toward the mat. Bend in the knees is fine as long as you need it. Then we'll all look forward, bend the knees, walk the feet up to the hands. Take your time coming into a forward fold at the top of the mat. Let's widen this stance. So go more toward the outer edges of the mat with the feet, and then clasp opposite elbows. Let the head and the neck go. You could sway to side to side gently if that feels okay in your body. If it bothers the lower back at all, you'll want to skip it. Then switch the grip. So clasp opposite elbows the other way. Coming to stillness, bring the hands down in front of you, heel toe the feet back to hip width distance. On an inhale, come up halfway. So slide the hands up the sides of the legs, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. 2 more like that. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Last one, inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. This time, inhale, circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. From here, standing with the feet hip width distance apart, bring the arms down by the sides. You're coming into Tadasana mountain pose. So fire up the legs, lift the core, lift the chest, shoulders away from the ears, and those arms are firm. They're reaching down toward the mat. Find a focal point straight in front of you. Start to shift the weight over to the right foot, and then see if you can hover the left foot. So you're just lifting it up high enough so it's not touching the ground. So hardly at all. And then keep that action. Just start to bring that left heel back behind you, trying not to touch the foot on the ground. It won't go that far back, but it's just enough to where you can feel all the muscles in the back side of the left leg start to engage. Chest is still lifted. Right leg is working. Whole body feels connected here. And slowly bring that left foot forward. You're still hovering it away from the mat, but now it's underneath the hip. Set the left foot down. Same thing, other side. So stay with your focal point, shift the weight over to the left foot, hug that right foot up and away from the mat. So you're lifting all those bones, using all those muscles, and then see how far back can you push that right heel. Maybe the whole foot goes behind the left leg. It doesn't have to. Just keep the chest lifted. You want to feel like that right hamstring, right glute is engaged to keep the leg lifted and pushing back at the same time. And start to bring that right foot forward. Keep hovering it. Once it gets underneath the hip, set that right foot down. You're back into Tadasana, mountain pose. Inhale, circle the arms all the way up. On the exhale, forward fold, bring it back down over the legs. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose. Shift forward onto the toes, bend the elbows halfway, chaturanga, up dog or cobra, whichever one feels like a better idea. Exhale, back, down dog. Few breaths in your downward facing dog. Start to find a little bit more length in the arms and the legs and the spine. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, maybe lightly float. Bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Surya A, inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat, bend the knees, step back to plank pose. Lower down halfway, chaturanga on your exhale. Inhale up for your back bend. Keep that lower back long, shoulders away from the ears. Exhale back, down dog. Bending the knees, looking forward. Bring the feet up. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose. Lower down halfway, chaturanga. Inhale up for your back bend. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Take a couple of breaths. One more cycle. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees. Hands come down to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Lower down halfway to chaturanga. Inhale up for your back bend. Exhaling back, downward facing dog. From down dog, step the right foot up between the hands, coming into a runner's lunge. Make sure the feet are hip width distance apart. We won't come up that high. You just want to lift the torso so it hovers over that right thigh with the arms reaching back. So chest is reaching forward, right knee stacked over the right ankle. Hips are centered. Core hugs in. So tricky transition. We're coming into reverse warrior. You'll spin that left heel down flat, reach the right arm up and back. Keep sending that right thigh straight forward. Then straighten the front leg, bring the hands to the hips, turn those right toes in to face the side of the mat. Fold forward halfway, hands come down in front of the shoulders. And then from here, you'll just keep this wide-legged stance. You'll hug the belly in. Try to move the hips forward and back once or twice until you find even on the weight of the feet. So you're not heavy in the heels. You're even between the balls of the feet and the heels of the feet. Then start to fold forward a little deeper. Walk both hands over to the right leg. Let the head and the neck go. They don't need to do anything. Hands come back to center underneath the shoulders, coming up halfway. Turn the toes to the top of the mat. Hands go to the top of the mat, and you step back, down dog. Either stay here, or you could take a vinyasa if you feel like you want to put more energy into it. It's up to you. Figure out what your goals are. Come back to that. This is one of those decisions that should line up with that. Other side, left foot steps up between the hands, feet hip width distance apart. Start to float the hands away from the mat, reach the arms back behind you. Keep that chest low over the front thigh without touching it. Left knee stacked over the left ankle. Reverse warrior. Spin that right heel down flat. Left arm reaches up and back. Right arm is light. So the right hand's just lightly resting on that left leg. Straighten the front leg, hands to the hips. Turn those left toes in. Fold forward halfway, hands come down in front of the shoulders. With the hands down in front of the shoulders and you're halfway folded forward, shift forward and back a couple of times so you do go too far forward, and then try to find center on the feet with this wide-legged stance. And then both hands will walk over to the left leg. You'll let the head and the neck go. If the hands touch, great. If they don't, it's not a big deal. So the tendency is to rock too far back onto the heels, and that means that the hips are behind the heels. So if anything, you just shift forward a little bit so you get a nice stretch in the back side of the left leg, also the right. Back to center with the hands, come up halfway, turn the toes to the top of the mat, hands to the top of the mat, stepping back to downward facing dog. Stay here, vinyasa. You have 5 breaths. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. We're coming into chair pose. Bend the knees, reach the arms up. Utkatasana. And although we want to get the hips low, if you feel like there's any lower back tenderness or the chest is starting to come down toward the thighs, maybe you lift the hips up enough so that you can find control of the core, keep the chest lifted, and keep those knees back behind the toes so you could see all 10 toes if you were looking down. Press all the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Tadasana, mountain pose, arms down by the sides. Find that focal point in front of you, eye level. So you're not looking up or down, you're just looking straight forward at one spot. Shift the weight over to the right foot. Lift that left foot like we did before. So it's just hovering away from the mat. Chest is still lifted. Start to move that left foot back. Firing up the left leg. Arms are still reaching down. And then from here, warrior three, you're already part of the way there. You can stay looking forward, putting a bend in that right knee. Eventually, you'll start to look down, lift from the inner left thigh, pressing that left foot away from you. Trying to keep the hips level. Bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of the left foot. You're coming into that lunge, hovering the chest low over that front thigh. Arms are still reaching back. Reverse warrior, spin that left heel down flat, right arm reaches up and back. Then straighten the front leg, bring the arms out wide to the side. So you're standing tall. You could shorten your stance for triangle if you want to by heel toeing the back foot in. Hip shift back, reach that right arm forward. Keep this length in the right side body as you bring the right hand down, left arm up, Trikonasana. You can turn that left palm to face behind you and wrap the left arm behind the back for a half bound Trikonasana. If you have that bind, reach the left arm back up, take it to warrior two. Looking forward over that right hand, nice lunge in the front leg, still reaching down through the ground, through the mat with that left leg. Hands come down to the mat, come onto the ball, the back foot, step that left foot forward to meet the right foot. Forward fold, top of the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, come back to chair pose, bend the knees, reach the arms up. Maybe you play with the height of the hips, just make sure you can see all 10 toes and the chest lifts and you have control of your core. Come all the way up to standing Tadasana, mountain pose, arms down by the sides. Find your focal point in front of you. Start to shift the weight over to the left foot. Lift that right foot away from the mat. Start to push that right leg back. Legs are straight, chest is still upright. Once you feel like you have the back side of the right leg on, slowly transition to warrior three. Take your time. A little bend in that standing knee helps. Right toes point down. Little bend in that standing leg. Reach back with the ball of the right foot. Keep the chest low over this front thigh. Arms still reaching back like the hands are trying to squeeze together. Spin the right heel down flat, reverse warrior. Left arm reaches up and back. Straighten the front leg, hands come out wide to the side. Maybe heel toe the back foot in a little bit. Triangle pose, lengthen the left side body, hips shift back, left arm down, right arm up. You're welcome to stay here. If you did it on the first side, turn that right palm to face behind you. Wrap the right arm behind the back, starting to open up this shoulder. Right arm can reach back up, Trikonasana triangle pose. Taking this to warrior two, bend that left knee, look forward over the left hand, get even in the legs. Hands in line with the shoulders as best we can. And windmill the hands down to the mat. Come onto the ball of the back foot. Step that right foot forward to the top of the mat. Forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold back down. Bend the knees, sit back, chair pose. All the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. So that's the basic of our flow. We'll add on a little bit and then we'll throw in an optional vinyasa if you want it. Don't feel obligated to take it. Arms come down by the sides. Find that focal point straight in front of you. Shift the weight over to the right foot. Lift the left foot. Start to kick that left leg back, but stay standing. Now warrior three, Virabhadrasana 3. Bend that standing knee a little bit or a lot. That's up to you. In fact, if you bend it a lot, it does make it a little bit harder, and eventually you will be bending it a lot. Just keep that inner left thigh engaged, all 5 toes pointing down on the left foot. Hips are trying to be level. Then bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of the left foot, keep the chest low, arms reaching back. Right knee stacked over the right ankle. Keeping that for reverse warrior. So spin that left heel down flat, right arm reaches up and back. Straighten the front leg, triangle pose. Arms reach out to the side, hips go back, right arm comes down, left arm reaches up. Look down at that right foot. Left hand, left hip. Bend the right knee, reach forward ahead of the right pinky toe, half moon, Ardha Chandrasana. So you're lifting that left leg, left arm can reach up. You hug that outer right hip in, and it's the outer left corner of that left foot that's the highest point of the pose. Core hugs in, heart reaches forward. Warrior 2 is your exit. Bend the standing leg, reach back with that left foot. Virabhadrasana 2. Nice landings. Hands come down to the mat. Vinyasa if you want on the way back to downward facing dog. You don't need to do it if you don't want to, but if you feel like it'll kind of cleanse that cycle and wash things off, then take it. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, hop, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose, Utkatasana. All the way up to standing, arms down by the sides, Tadasana. Shift the weight over to the left foot. Hug that right foot up, away from the mat. Kick the right leg back. It's not going to go very far. Core is turned on. And then warrior 3, take your time, go slow. Keep that control and stability of the body. Bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of the right foot. Keep the chest low as you land in that lunge with the chest reaching forward, hands squeezing together back behind you. Reverse warrior, spin that right heel down flat, left arm reaches up and back. Straighten the front leg, arms out wide to the side. If you have a long stance, shorten it a little bit for triangle. Hip shift back, left arm down, right arm up. Look down at the left foot, bend that left knee as much as you can, reach forward, which means you shift forward onto that left foot and then lift the left leg. Lift the right leg. Right arm reaches up, Ardha Chandrasana, half moon. So you can stay looking down if your balance is a struggle today. If it's not, you can start to look to the right. You can even look up at that top hand and play around there. Warrior 2, bend the standing leg, reach back with the right foot. Virabhadrasana 2. Hands come down to the mat. Make your way back to downward facing dog. Stay there. Take a vinyasa. Deep breath in through the nose. Back out through the nose. Bending the knees, looking forward. Bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Utkatasana chair pose. Start to lower the hips and lift the chest. Lower the hips, lift the chest. We're making our way down to the mat. Lower the hips, lift the chest. See if you can lower them and just hover in a squat, lifting the chest, and then set the hips down with or without the hands. Feet lift. You're in boat pose, Navasana. So let's add in a little bit of core this round, and then we'll come back into that flow and feel the difference. So lower down Ardha Navasana, or you can always stay in boat pose the whole time if you want to. Keep squeezing the thighs together, looking up back to Navasana. So think about having one leg if you're going back and forth between the two. Lower down Ardha Navasana, back up Navasana. Lower down Ardha Navasana, reaching forward, looking up. Inhale up, Navasana, looking up. One more, lower down Ardha, back up Navasana. And then you can come back up by setting the feet down, hands to the mat, or you can take rocks. This builds momentum. One of the few times that we try to use it to our advantage to come back up into chair pose. When you feel ready, see if you have it. We're all in chair pose one way or another. However we can get there, truly. Come all the way up to standing. Arms come down by the sides, Tadasana. Okay, so that core's turned on. Let's see what happens. Shift the weight over to the right foot. Hover the left foot up and away from the mat. Start to kick that left leg back. Warrior 3, take your time. Guiding yourself there into the pose. Bend the standing leg, reach back. It's that lunge hovering over the front thigh. Arms reach back and the hands squeeze together. Spin that left heel down flat, reverse warrior. Come up to standing, legs straight, triangle pose. Shortening the stance too for that transition to half moon is nice in your triangle pose. So that's another advantage in doing that. Right arm reaches up, left arm, right hand goes down, left arm reaches up. Then look down at the right foot, bend the right knee, reach forward ahead of the right pinky toe. Half moon. So shift the weight forward, lift that left leg up, get long in the torso and long in all limbs, even the head. Warrior 2, take your time, bend the standing leg, start to stretch that left foot way back. Arms are out wide. Great. Hands come down to the mat. Downward facing dog. Maybe you hold that, or maybe you take a vinyasa. Even in the vinyasa, noticing how your core is helping you. Lengthen the lower back and keep the thighs lifted, especially in upward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step walk, bring the feet up. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose. all the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart, Tadasana. So last side, start to find your focal point, shift the weight over to the left foot, hug that right foot away from the mat, and then start to press that right leg back. Stay standing first. Once you have control of the muscles in the legs, warrior three. Bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of the right foot, arms still reaching back, chest reaching forward. Reverse warrior, spin that right heel down, left arm reaches up and back. Straighten the front leg, arms come out wide to the side. Maybe you heel toe the back foot in, Trikonasana triangle pose. Looking down at that left foot, bend the left knee, reach forward ahead of the left pinky toe, half moon. Open the chest. Maybe play with the gaze. Then reach back with the ball of the right foot, bend that standing leg, warrior two. Good. Hands come down to the mat. Step back, downward facing dog. Choose if you want a vinyasa or not. And then this time, let's step the right foot forward from here, coming into your runner's lunge, feet hip width distance apart, bring it up to crescent pose. So arms reach forward all the way up. Hands come together right down in front of the heart. Find your twist. You can start to lean over the front thigh, maybe rest the elbow on top of the thigh, or for a deeper variation, you can hook the elbow outside of the thigh. Back knee can come down if you'd like, or keep that back knee lifted. Look down at the mat, bring the hands to the mat, step back, downward facing dog. 5 breaths here, up to you. Take the vinyasa, skip it. Left foot steps up between the hands, feet hip width. Rise up, crescent pose. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Open the chest to the left as you start to lean forward, resting the elbow or hooking the elbow. Back knee can always come down, especially if it happened on the first side. Exploring the twist, trying to get as long as you can from the crown of the head all the way to that back right heel if the knee's lifted. Looking down at the mat, hands to the mat, step back to downward facing dog. Last opportunity for a vinyasa if it's calling to you. And then this time, look forward at the hands. Glide forward to plank pose, lower all the way down to the mat so you're lying on your stomach. Tops of the feet come down, reach the arms back behind you, squeeze the hands together, lift and spread the chest, maybe hover the feet. But when you hover the feet, think about when you were standing, you were just gently pressing that right leg back and getting all those muscles to turn on. Same action here. You don't need to lift the feet that high to get that to happen. And rest. So you can keep the arms back, turn the head to one side. You can make a pillow with the hands. 2 more rounds of back bends. Reach the arms back behind you. Squeeze the hands together. Lift the feet. Reach the heart forward. Squeeze everything together. Hands together. Inner thighs spin up. And set the feet down and rest the head. If you turn it to one side, turn it the other way. Last back bend for this class. Reach the arms back behind you, hover the feet, reach the chest forward. Back of the neck stays long, so look down the bridge of the nose. See if you can get up a little bit higher with the chest. And release. Let that all go. You can lift the feet and move the feet side to side like windshield wipers if that feels okay in your lower back. And set the feet back down. Bring the hands to the mat. Take child's pose. Knees apart, big toes together, forehead down. Arms out in front of you or back behind you might be nice. Then bring the arms out in front of you if they're not already in your child's pose. Shift forward onto hands and knees. Come back to downward facing dog, just to transition to a hip opener. Look forward, right foot outside of the right hand. So back to that wide lizard lunge, but let's bring the back knee down, untuck the toes, reach the heart forward. Maybe you stay here, or maybe you come down onto the forearms. That's a big difference. So blocks are nice. You can put a block underneath you and bring the forearms to a block. You could even do 2 blocks stacked. And that's a little bit lower than having your hands down on the mat. So see what the right hip is okay with. And you'll come back up onto the hands. Keep the sole of the right foot down on the mat. See if you can tuck the back toes and scoot that left knee back any farther. We want to be above the kneecap if possible. And then you can just rest the top of the foot on the mat. Take the right hand to the right hip, open the chest to the right. So it's a nice twist, still staying in that right hip, opening it up. Maybe you stay here. Some of you like to bend the back knee, reach back, grab for the foot. If the hand and the foot don't connect, then just let it go and keep the right hand on the right hip. You don't want to stay with the hand and the foot not touching. And gently release the foot if you have it. Set the block off to the side if you have that. Heel toe the right foot back to center. Let's take half splits. So shift the hips back, straightening the front leg. Push that heel forward. Heart reaches forward over the right toes. And it's like you're trying to drag that right heel in toward the body as you bring the left thigh forward. So nothing's moving. It's just that isometric feeling in the body. Hands can be on blocks. Then shift forward onto the sole of the right foot, tuck the back toes, hands to the mat, lift the back knee, step back, downward facing dog. Same thing other side. Look forward, left foot outside of the left hand, wide lunge, set the back knee down, maybe untuck the toes, reach the heart forward. This might be a good place for you, or maybe you come down onto the forearms. Block underneath the chest is kind of nice so that you don't have to go all the way down. Listen to your body and see where you can make adjustments. Trying to take any rounding out of the upper back. It'll be deeper in the hip when you do that. Then start to come back up onto the hands. If you have a block, you could leave a block underneath this right hand at whatever height, especially if it's difficult to reach that back foot. So right hand underneath the right shoulder could be on a block, left hand, left hip, open the chest to the left. So just start with this because this feels really good. And if you haven't already, tuck the back toes, scoot that right knee as far back as you can, and then let the top of the foot come down. Stay here or bend the right knee, reach back, see if the foot's there. If it's not, just left hand to the left hip. If you have the foot, gently release. Left foot, heel toes back to center, half split. So you have that back knee down already. Shift the hips back, lift the left toes. You might need to push that left heel forward till the hips feel side by side. Chest is reaching forward. Shift forward onto the sole of the left foot, coming into a lunge, hands down to the mat, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, back to downward facing dog. Then bring the knees down to the mat, feet over to one side, and you're coming to seated on the mat, legs out in front of you. Just scoot yourself forward so that when you lie down onto your back, the head's still on the mat. And then we'll take a deeper twist here. So scoot the hips over to the right, bring the knees over to the left. Right arm reaches outside the shoulder. You can have it all the way extended. You could bend at the elbow. That's a different amount of weight on the shoulder. So that's something to play with. Some people like to just reach the right arm straight overhead. And for some of us, it's difficult in a twist to reach the right arm all the way out to the right. You could just bring the arm down by the side and check that out. See if that's the best of all the options. If all options feel good and you're like, I have no idea what I should do, go with the right arm extended out to the side or bending at the elbow. And let's switch. Come onto the back, find center, and then start to scoot the hips over to the left, knees over to the right. Left arm reaches out to the side. You open the chest. Maybe the gaze goes with you, looking over the left hand if that feels good. Then you can explore the arm options here, especially if you did it on the first side. Or maybe this side isn't allowing you to do the same thing you did on the first side, and that's fine too. Find an option that works. And start to bring the head back to center, the feet back to center, finding center on your back. Let's take happy baby. Keep the hips down on the mat. Maybe you rock side to side. Maybe you straighten one leg and then the other. Back to happy baby. So knees wider than the torso, feet flex. Pull back on whatever you're hanging onto with the hands. It doesn't have to be the feet. Hug the knees in toward the chest. Close the eyes. Take a deep breath in through the nose and hold it at the very top. Sip in a little bit more air through the mouth. Exhale, Shavasana. Extend the legs out in front of you, arms down by the sides. And if you have any props lying around and you're not using them, just shoo those out of the way with the feet, legs, whatever it is. You want to be intentional with what's touching something that helps the nervous system start to relax for your Shavasana. You'll start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Reach the arms overhead, get long on your mat, stretching out through the feet, the arms. And let's hug the knees in toward the chest. So bring the knees in, give them a squeeze. Set the feet down onto the mat, roll over onto your right side, cradle the head and the arm. Left hand presses down into the floor in front of you, and you'll come up to your easy cross-legged seat, sitting up tall, eyes closed. To close your practice, bring the hands together in front of you. Keep that lift of the chest as you start to bow the head, honoring and acknowledging your heart and spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thanks so much. Hope you enjoyed that flow and the rest of your day, evening, wherever you're at with things. See you next time.